Good morning, everyone. Are we live as well? Yes, perfect. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Flipping Perspectives, Maximizing Exchange conference of the Creative Flip project. My name is Dubravka Jurisic. I am the project manager of Creative Flip at the Goethe-Institut Brussels, and it's really my pleasure to be your moderator today for this conference. Thank you all very much for joining us in such a large number in person after such a long time. I think everyone was very excited to be able to see faces once again, familiar and new, and that's why we are very late, a bit late, so I'm really sorry to the audience who's watching us online on YouTube. I would just like to also thank them for joining us as well. Today we are gathered here to discuss the future perspectives of the culture and creative sector, to reflect back on the effects of the pandemic, but also to discuss how we can bounce forward for the future of the cultural creative sector. And in this morning, we have an array of wonderful speakers who will welcome you to this conference and open this event. And it's really my pleasure to first greet Ms. Sabine Verheyen, who is a member of the European Parliament and chair of the Committee for Culture and Education at the European Parliament. She will be joining us online, and I would just like to check if we can have Ms. Verheyen online.
I'm here.
Perfect.
Do you hear me?
Yes, we hear you really well. Sorry, there was a bit of an echo, that's why it's resonating a little bit, but I think everything will be now perfect. Yes, okay, now we also see you, so this is perfect. Hello and welcome. It's really a pleasure to have you with us today, especially because Creative Flip is a pilot project of the European Parliament, starting already since 2019 and continuing now as a preparatory action. So it's really a pleasure to have a member of the European Parliament today here with us. And now I give you the floor to give your opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends from Creative Flip, dear participants, I'm very happy that you have invited me as chair of the Committee on Culture and Education in the European Parliament to speak to you today. The cultural and creative sectors are among those most affected by the pandemic. They were the first ones that shut down and the last ones to open back up. I'm sorry to say that especially in the beginning, the European Union failed the sector. Freelancers and authors, for example, had hardly been able to benefit from the programs, from the aid programs, and as they had low operating costs, but also normal living costs, which were not covered by the previous credit programs. And although the creators and artists were in such a tense and uncertain situation, they still made staying home for the rest of us so much easier. They had shown us that the culture and creative sector are systematically relevant. I'm happy that we can witness the overall amplified role that culture plays for the European Union today that it did 10 or 20 years ago. The pandemic was a powerful warning that we need to do better in protecting our CCIs. But COVID-19 had mainly exacerbated already existing problems. First and foremost, the cultural sector has suffered from inadequate provisions of public funding for a long time, which makes it difficult to set new priorities or to support the sector's resilience. This is why initiatives and projects like FLIP are so valuable. The preparatory action co-funded by the EU and project partners aim to build a stronger resilience of the cultural and creative sector by further strengthening the overall system. I like that it does not just focus on one aspect, but on the whole ecosystem. We often talk about the creative part of culture, the feel-good aspect that we all enjoy. However, we should not forget that the creative and culture industries are an economical force. The CCIs alone employ close to 10 million people in the EU, and many of them are young people. And they represent no less than around 4.4% of the EU's GDP in terms of total turnover, which is 2.3 times more than that of the automotive industry. Therefore, I appreciate the four aspects that FLIP focused on: finance, learning, innovation, and intellectual property rights. for the CCSI. An important question remains: how far does the earlier mentioned appreciation for culture go beyond rhetoric and symbolism? And does it find its expression in substantial policymaking? This is something the Committee on Culture and Education in the EP is fighting hard for. In 2022, the EU will launch an exciting new mobility scheme for cultural professionals and organizations worth 21 million euro. Evidently, this is only a drop in the ocean, but a welcome drop, we hope, for those creators and cultural professionals whom it will allow to go abroad for international collaborations, for professional development, to find new audiences, to present their work, or to co-create with others. And nothing keeps us from continuing being a driving force for innovation, including by means of pilot projects and preparatory actions like yours. I sincerely hope that we can learn from this pandemic, that everybody understands the extraordinary role of the cultural and creative sector, that people and especially state leaders start to see the enormous economic potential of the sector, and that from now on the sector will get the recognition and support it deserves. We still can do better to make our creative and cultural sector more resilient. Sure, there have been a number of encouraging developments in recent years, such as the European Year of Cultural Heritage in 2018, a strengthened Creative Europe program, and new European initiatives in the cultural sphere, such as the new European Bauhaus or a mobility scheme for art. But no, culture does not yet enjoy the central status it deserves in the European project. We together have to fight for a better status of cultural policies on the European level. Culture gives Europe the soul that it needs so much. That is why culture is of systematical relevance and not just nice to have. We as human beings are cultural beings. It is an essential part of our existence. And that is why we have to fight for a better positioning. Now I wish you a successful event and a fruitful exchange, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Verheyen, for these really kind words, and also for very insightful thoughts regarding the status and conditions of working conditions of the artists, and also in general their recognition as a really important factor in the future transformation of our societies. And these are definitely topics that we will be discussing today later on during the conference. So I thank you very much for your intervention. It's really, well, one of the positive sides of the pandemic, we have to say, if there are any positive ones, is that we've all become really tech savvy and made really these great leaps in digital organization of events, so we could have you here with us virtually, if not physically, and we hope to welcome you also in physical presence next time at our event. Thank you. Now it's my pleasure to welcome Guillemette Madinier, who will be representing the French presidency of the Council of the European Union. She is the chair of the Cultural Affairs Committee, so she will give us perspective from the member states and France, Republic of France, as now the chair of the Council. Thank you, Guillemette.
Bonjour à tous, Madame la députée, Mesdames et Messieurs, chers collègues et amis. Avant tout, merci de m'avoir conviée à représenter la présidence du Conseil de l'Union européenne à l'occasion de cette première conférence des parties prenantes du projet Creative Flip. Je tenais à adresser mes premiers mots et mes premières pensées, ainsi que, je crois, je peux m'exprimer au nom de l'ensemble de mes collègues européens, aux artistes ukrainiens qui sont pour certains en fuite ou qui font face au conflit sur place. Lors de leur réunion informelle à Angers la semaine dernière, les ministres de la Culture ont adopté à l'unanimité une déclaration exprimant toute leur solidarité avec l'Ukraine et son peuple. Ils ont en particulier marqué leur soutien aux artistes, aux journalistes et aux professionnels de la culture et des médias, qui sont aujourd'hui menacés dans leur liberté. Et les ministres ont affirmé leur ambition de favoriser l'accueil de ces artistes dans des conditions en Europe qui leur permettent de poursuivre leurs activités et de préserver leur liberté d'expression et de création artistique.
Ladies and gentlemen, Madam Member of Parliament, friends and colleagues, first of all, I would like to give my first words and thoughts, like I guess we share all, to the Ukrainian artists. Just last week in Angers, we unanimously adopted a declaration expressing solidarity with Ukraine and its people. In particular, the ministers expressed their support for artists, journalists, cultural and media professionals whose freedom are now under threat. Our ministers affirmed their ambition to promote and welcome artists, journalists, cultural and media professionals in conditions that allow them to pursue their activities and preserve their freedom of expression and artistic creation. They also expressed their great concern and commitment to preserving Ukraine's rich cultural heritage in close cooperation with the relevant international organizations and partners.
Aujourd'hui, vous allez aborder des thématiques passionnantes qui sont au cœur des travaux du Conseil de l'Union européenne. En effet, l'une des priorités de notre programme de travail 2019-2022 est la consolidation d'un écosystème culturel et créatif soutenant les artistes, les professionnels de la culture et les contenus créatifs européens.
Today, you're going to address some exciting issues which are at the heart of the work of the Council of the European Union. Indeed, some of the priorities of our 2019-2022 work programme is a consolidation of a cultural and creative ecosystem supporting European artists, cultural professionals and creative content.
Comme l'a dit Madame Verheyen, cet écosystème a été mis à rude épreuve par la crise sanitaire. Vous vous souviendrez certainement des travaux menés durant la présidence portugaise, au cours de laquelle le Conseil avait adopté des conclusions sur la relance, la résilience et la durabilité des secteurs de la culture et de la création. Ces conclusions visaient à adopter une approche commune pour aider ces secteurs et faire face à l'urgence. D'importants moyens, y compris financiers, ont ainsi été mis en place au niveau national et européen pour soutenir la culture, dont on a vu à quel point elle était une valeur refuge pour les citoyens européens. D'autres mesures européennes ont été adoptées face aux conséquences de la pandémie. Des assouplissements temporaires en matière d'aide d'État, par exemple, ont permis de soutenir l'écosystème culturel européen. Les États membres se sont par ailleurs emparés des fonds de la facilité de relance et de résilience pour soutenir leur secteur culturel et créatif.
Just as my colleague, Madame Verheyen, just said, this ecosystem has been put to the test by the health crisis. We certainly remember the work carried out during the Portuguese presidency, under which the Council adopted conclusions on the recovery, resilience and sustainability of cultural and creative sectors. These conclusions aimed at adopting a common approach to help these sectors to deal with the emergency. Important means, including financials, were thus put in place at a national European level to support culture, which has been shown to be a refuge value to European citizens. Other European measures have been adopted in response to consequences of the pandemic. Temporary relaxation in aid state, for example, have helped to support the European cultural ecosystem. Member States have also taken advantage of the Recovery and Resilience Facility to support their cultural and creative sectors.
Sous présidence française, nous travaillons à des conclusions du Conseil visant à amorcer la conception d'une stratégie européenne à l'appui de l'écosystème des industries créatives et culturelles. L'objectif de ces conclusions est de dessiner des axes de moyen-long terme pour nos ICC, pour les accompagner face aux défis futurs et dépasser une logique de réponse à la crise. Au cours de nos travaux, nous avons dégagé 5 axes autour desquels structurer une stratégie commune. Améliorer l'accès au financement pour les industries créatives et culturelles, stimuler la valorisation des compétences, de l'éducation et de la formation, préserver la richesse et la diversité culturelle européenne à l'ère numérique, notamment par des réflexions sur les actifs culturels stratégiques et sur la rémunération des auteurs, renforcer l'export des industries créatives et culturelles européennes et promouvoir la responsabilité sociale et la transition écologique de nos entreprises culturelles et créatives. Nous avons aussi travaillé sur la mobilité des artistes et des professionnels de la culture, qui est un sujet d'importance, comme l'a souligné Madame Verheyen.
Under the French presidency, we are working on Council conclusions aimed at initiating the design of a European strategy to support the ecosystem of cultural and creative industries. The objective of these conclusions is to draw up a medium and long-term guidelines for our CCIs to support them in the face of future challenges and to go beyond a crisis response approach. In the course of our work, we have identified 5 areas which to structure this common strategy, which are improving access to financing for cultural and creative enterprises, stimulating the development of skills, education and training, preserving Europe's cultural wealth and diversity in the digital age, in particular through reflections on strategic cultural assets and on the remuneration of authors, strengthening the export of European cultural and creative industries, and promoting the social responsibility and ecological transition of our cultural and creative enterprises. And I'll also add the mobility of artists and professionals of the cultural sector, which is just as important. And our colleague, Madame Verheyen, just mentioned this as well earlier in her speech.
La question du statut et des conditions de travail dans l'écosystème créatif et culturel est bien sûr prégnante pour en assurer la résilience. Des travaux sont menés dans le cadre d'un groupe de la méthode ouverte de coordination qui réunit des experts des États membres, dont je sais que plusieurs d'entre eux participent à cette journée Creative Flip. Je suis sûre que les débats d'aujourd'hui nourriront utilement les travaux de ce groupe.
The issue of status and working conditions in the creative and cultural ecosystem is of course of great importance to ensure its resilience. Work is being carried out in the framework of an open method of coordination group, which brings together experts from the member states, several of whom I know are participating in this event today. I am sure that today's discussions will provide useful input to the work of this group.
Creative Flip est un projet unique en son genre, aussi car il remet au centre de l'attention les enjeux de la propriété intellectuelle. Le droit d'auteur est en effet une pierre angulaire du financement de la création européenne. La révision de la directive droit d'auteur en 2018 a précisément doté l'Union d'un acte législatif innovant et équilibré qui vise à garantir l'application et le renforcement en ligne du droit d'auteur et des droits des créateurs et des industries culturelles et créatives. La présidence française conduit actuellement des travaux en filière droit d'auteur du Conseil de l'UE afin d'identifier des solutions pour assurer l'effectivité et la pleine mise en œuvre de notre ambitieux modèle européen du droit d'auteur. En effet, nous avons assisté récemment à des tentatives de contournement des règles, par exemple sur le droit voisin des éditeurs de presse, et à des tentatives de certains acteurs internationaux d'imposer un autre modèle de rémunération que celui que nous avons choisi pour nos auteurs en Europe.
Creative Flip is also unique in that it brings intellectual property issues back into focus. Copyright is indeed a cornerstone of the financing of European creation. The revision of the Copyright Directive in 2018 has provided the European Union with an innovative and balanced piece of legislation that aims to ensure the enforcement and strengthening of copyright and the right of creators and cultural and creative industries online in the face of online services that have become very important contributors. The French presidency is currently conducting work in the EU Council copyright sector to identify solutions to ensure the effectiveness and full implementation of our ambitious European copyright model. And indeed, we have recently seen attempts to circumvent the rules, for example, on the neighboring rights of press publishers, and attempts by some international players to impose a different remuneration model than the one that we have chosen for our authors in Europe.
Les discussions d'aujourd'hui sont donc particulièrement d'actualité, y compris dans la perspective de l'ouverture prochaine de nos discussions sur le futur programme de travail pour la culture post-2022. Et je vous écouterai donc avec beaucoup d'intérêt. Je vous remercie pour votre attention et je vous souhaite une très bonne journée de travail.
Today's discussions are therefore particularly relevant, especially in the view of the upcoming opening of our discussions on the future work programme for culture. I will therefore listen with great interest to your presentations, and I thank you very much for your attention and wish you a very nice working day.
Thank you very much, Ms. Madinier, on the words on behalf of the French presidency, and we're really glad to hear once again about the priorities which we all, I think, share. And we sincerely hope that the discussion today could, at least in any part, contribute maybe to the future plans and priorities in the future work plan for culture. And I would also like to thank Viviane Arnault, who supported us in enabling us to really support and fully embrace the multiculturalism and multilingualism of the European Union, and promoted by the French presidency as well. So thank you very much. It is now my pleasure to welcome Mr. Tamas, Szucs, who is the Director for Culture, Creativity and Sport at the European Commission, Director General for Education and Culture. The DG EAC has been our main coordinator of the Creative Flip project, and we really appreciate all the support and cooperation throughout these years since 2019. So it's my pleasure to give the word to Mr. Szucs.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? I think this microphone is a bit
Yes, they're coming.
not very well placed, but thank you. I think it's better now. You will agree with me. Okay. Well, Madam Chair, Madam Presidency, dear friends and colleagues, thank you very much for this invitation. I must confess I'm very happy to be here today, and in fact I have very fond memories. I have a bit of a nostalgic feeling, and I may not be the only one in this room. It's more than 2 years ago that there was a similar Flip conference organized in this very room, which was the last one before COVID for many of us. So it really fills me with pleasure to see all of you again in person, and it's a completely new feeling to talk to you during the coffee break and just to see each other basically in real life. With all due respect, of course, to the amazing opportunities which were opened up by the digital world and from which we profited. No one denies that this was extremely useful and will remain very useful, but still it's difficult, or let's say impossible, to completely replace basically the personal encounters, especially in a field like ours, culture. Of course, the lockdowns and COVID has been a major challenge for the whole sector. But as you recall, and as also the previous speakers recalled, basically additional resources were provided at EU level, not immediately, but I would say within a reasonable delay. And all the sectors were able to profit from this, including the cultural and creative sectors. So we survived, and hope that it was not just a survival, but actually also new opportunities opened up. And I think we all feel strengthened today to continue on this road. Today, cultural and creative sectors are on the agenda more than ever. The new Creative Europe program, the Erasmus Plus program, the reinforced Horizon Europe with a specific cluster basically dedicated to culture and creativity, the upcoming KIC, and also the Digital Europe program and the Invest EU. I mean, there are many new initiatives which basically will serve us. Not to mention, of course, in addition, the new European Bauhaus project, which you all know, and many of you, I think, also participate in it. In a broader sense, I should also mention the European Pact for Skills, intending to build large-scale multi-stakeholder partnerships also for the sector. And the FLIP project's work is an important contribution also to this process. Now, focusing more on our agenda today, I think we can all be proud to set up the Creatives Unite platform together. By now, it has become a milestone, our common space to share initiatives and actions responding to COVID and also beyond. It's a highly successful operation with more than 50,000 users by now, and more than 1,300 published posts, as far as I know, is the latest result, which is very encouraging and a good sign for the future. So let me congratulate again the European Creative Hubs Network for their outstanding efforts to make all this happen. Of course, the same congratulation is due to the Goethe-Institut, I mean, one of our major partners, not just in this regard, but on many other fronts. Not the last one, which also Madame Verheyen recalled, the mobility scheme, the iPortunus, which indeed was a resounding success. And let me just share with you the good news, which Madame Verheyen also mentioned, that we are really working hard to launch a full new program with 21 million euros for the next 3 years. I hope that many of you will be also able to profit from this. I'm very glad that the platform will be continued and new functionalities will be added to it in the next phase of FLIP. Additional features will be a specific funding tool for cultural and creative professionals and also an IPR tool. Both are really value-added, which you have been asking for. The plan-specific FLIP funding tool will complement and build upon our own, the Commission's own recently established Culture EU or Kultur EU tool, which showcases funding opportunities for the sector in all EU programs, not just the cultural programs, until 2027. Now, this new specific tool will go beyond this. It will add funding sources at regional, local, and national level. And it will also include private sector funding and other new functionalities. And it will all be linked to the Culture EU guide. I understand that there will be much more explanation on all these new features and some sort of a brainstorming to fine-tune the tools and the whole new ways of working. Today you will be discussing about the resilience of the CCS and how to take things forward. You will also discuss the working conditions of artists and creative professionals. There was also a reference to this from the Presidency. In line with the current work plan for culture, the Commission, as you know, already delivered a study on this. And this was followed by a Voices of Culture dialogue, and we have an OMC group up and running. And let me also welcome the members of this group. I bumped into some of them already during the coffee break, which again, some of these people I haven't seen for 2 years, so it was a very good feeling to see them again now. So, warm welcome to everyone. And at the same time, I would also like to thank the Creative FLIP project for organizing this event and for gathering all of us here. I wish you basically a lot of inspiration, co-creation and networking. Perhaps the last one is what we need most, because it's much easier to reflect on your own, but sometimes much more useful to network a bit and getting new ideas from each other. So thank you very much, and I wish you a nice and fruitful day.
Thank you very much, Mr. Szucs. It's really a pleasure to cooperate with your team on the future development of the Creatives Unite platform. And as you already announced, we will be discussing it later today, actually right after the welcome speeches, about the new features that will come up, and then later today to hear your inputs on its further development. And now it's really my pleasure well, it's strange to say I welcome you to your own space, but it's Mr. Pierre Pevée, who is the hub manager of LaVallée Creative Hub. Thank you very much for really welcoming us here to this space. It's really a pleasure. As Mr. Szucs said, we all really warmly remember the conference 2 years ago. So it's really a pleasure for all of us to be here again. And we'd really like to, for you to welcome us here to this space, but also tell us a little bit about the last 2 years and maybe future prospects.
Yeah, thank you. Of course, it's really strange for me to explain my project in front of you. I was used to explain my project in front of a computer, and I'm a bit anxious and emotional. Sorry about that. Most of you know LaVallée, and I will explain in 2 minutes what we are doing. LaVallée is a project developed by Smart. Smart is a corp who provides services to entrepreneurs. In LaVallée, we produce events. You can have an example in the other room, an exhibition from Elzo Durt. Elzo is a graphic designer, a famous graphic designer in Brussels. You can really visit the exhibition. There are some special things. It's really interesting. But we produce also performances, talks, like today, concert, parties, apéro, and so on. We provide also workplaces. We have more than 200 people working here in the building every day with a lot of activities. Most of them are working in the creation industry. We try to create link between them with animation, some animation. And we consider the project like a facilitator. Of course, I'm going to talk about the pandemic period, which was a strange period for us. Something special with some negative things. I remember the frustration. That was really, for me, the best, the main important feeling I had during this period. My team was temporarily unemployed. That was, for me, something really difficult. We didn't have any public event. Strange for a building, we normally welcome more than 50,000 people a year. We had a lot of difficulties getting public helps. That was for us also a big challenge, and we have to think about a new business model. But also it's also a good thing. Also about some residents. Some had to leave the place. Especially the people who start the activities, and people who didn't have any social security. It represents more or less 15% of the resident who has to leave the place, because I had to choose between pay the apartment or pay the workplace. But we also had some positive action. We have to find some solutions, and it's always interesting to think about the project with the team, to talk. I explained that we have to find new business model. We had new occupation of the spaces. A lot of filming during this period. We also create a new space. You visited it at the entrance. The welcome room, the bar, was before like a techno club. Now it's a bar. Yeah, And we also try to produce new local economy activities. It was a new challenge for us and new activities. We work more with local producer. We developed also local market and try to find new solutions for those activities. Also, we apply for Erasmus Plus project, a new challenge for us. And now we are leader for one project called Places Treaty. We work on the business model of Places Treaty Creative Hub, and also on a new way of training in places like LaVallée. The second project we are as partner is called Opinus. We are creating a toolbox for the access to the digital tools, and also a virtual creative hub. About the residents, there are also good stories. We never closed the space. Even during the first lockdown, the workplaces were open because some artisans and artists needed the tools to work. For example, a ceramist, there is the oven here, and it was impossible for her to work in her apartment. And that means that some people here had still a social life, and that create new link. In fact, not like I don't like to say like a family, but like a community. A new project happens. Also for the residents, they have to find new opportunity, and they develop new project and also new way of selling. Internet was the solution, and that create new opportunity. As the restaurant and the bar were closed, a lot of people, they didn't spend money for food and drinks, but they spend a lot of money for their apartment. And that means most of the artists and the artisans, they increase their activities. And it was really a good thing. Finally, during the two lockdowns, we reopened for 2 or 3 months, and that was really a strange feeling, something special, a special energy. I remember about that. I have an event, especially with the Goethe-Institut. We produce an installation, big sound installation in both venue, in both rooms, called a modular organelle system, and we had 500 people visiting the installation. It was special. Finally, I want to thank you, all of us, all the Creative Fleet partners for the organization and being here, and La Régie TV for the live session, the live streaming. They are resident here. They really do a good job, and also my team. Marie, Pedro, Hicham, Boris, Caroline, thank you. Without you, nothing is possible. Thank you, and enjoy your day. Bye.
Thank you, Pierre, really so much to you and the whole team, as you mentioned, from LaVallée Creative Hub and also from La Régie and Citizen Motion, who are following us here today. We're really happy that we were able to engage more members of this community in supporting the actual implementation of this event, and also enabling for the audience online to also have the live stream and see us. It's a shame that they cannot be here today also to enjoy the wonderful art that Pierre mentioned, which is on the walls here in the gallery. And just for the ones who are here, in the booklet, in the program that you have at the very end, you have a small text about LaVallée Creative Hub, about the history of its development, but also about Elzo Tut, who is the artist, in case you're interested in learning more about it. So once again, really thanks to LaVallée for welcoming us here. And now we have the final intervention in the welcome addresses. It's Mr. Johannes Ebert, who is the Secretary General of the Goethe-Institut. Goethe-Institut is the lead partner of the Creative Flip project. Unfortunately, he cannot be with us here today, but we will be able to see him, as we said, with the magical digital solutions from online. Thank you.
I remember very well the last time I took part in the Creative Flip conference. It was before the Corona crisis, and we all personally met in Brussels. There were many stakeholders of the creative industries, CCI experts, and driving forces for the whole sector of creative industries in Europe. It was a very good conference with many exchanges, the exchange of experiences, of giving advice and of learning together. Dear members of the European Parliament, of the European Commission, dear colleagues, dear friends. On behalf of the Creative Flip Consortium, the Goethe-Institut and our project partners European Creative Hubs Network, Idea Consult, 3S Unternehmensberatung and Intellectual Property Institute Luxembourg, I would like to welcome you to the Flipping Perspectives Maximizing Exchange Stakeholder Conference. This is the first conference in the new phase of our project, now as an EU co-funded preparatory action. Creative Flip was initiated in 2019 by the European Parliament and is implemented in cooperation with the European Commission, Directorate General for Education and Culture, both of whom I would like to thank for continuous and successful cooperation throughout the years. This cooperation brought about many successful initiatives, such as the Creatives Unite platform. It is therefore my great pleasure to open this event jointly with the representatives of these two institutions, as well as with the French Presidency of the Council of the EU, whom I would like to thank for devotion and focus on culture during their term. Finally, I would like to thank our host, the LaVallée Creative Hub in Molenbeek, and to express my sincerest regret that I cannot join you today in person in Brussels at this beautiful venue where, jointly with the European Commission, we organized the truly memorable Flipping the Odds conference about 2 years ago. Shortly after this conference took place, we were forced to forego any notion of physical events by the new reality and restrictions brought on by the pandemic. We have faced unprecedented strain on our societies, well-being and economies, and none more so than the cultural and creative sectors and its members. We are all well familiar with the devastating effect that the health crisis had on our sector and the tremendous loss of revenue and livelihoods, particularly for the SMEs, individuals and freelancers that compose the majority of its share. The crisis has in fact only unearthed and put into starker light the already existing problems in this ecosystem, such as the precarious working conditions, the status of artists and cultural professionals, as well as fair pay. And I'm extremely happy these will be among the main topics discussed at the conference today. At the same time, the pandemic has made it clear how invaluable culture is for the resilience and well-being of our societies. Even more, the rapid changes in the digital and the innovation sphere spurred on by the crisis have shown us that culture and creativity have an extremely important role to play in the future transformation of our societies and must imperatively be an integral part of this process. And this precisely is an important message in the work of Creative Flip and a topic of today's conference that will be presented by our experts later in the day. The current terrible events in Ukraine have shown us once again how fragile our current situation is and how unpredictable the future of our society and the challenges it may face. We stand together with the entire European cultural and creative sector, which has strongly condemned all acts of violence against the people of Ukraine. We have always emphasized the importance and power of international cultural relations and cooperation as they incite exchange, people-to-people contexts, learning from each other, to name only a few elements. This is why we support the mobility of artists and cultural professionals and foster opportunities for exchange among the different sector stakeholders from different parts of Europe, such as the conference we are organizing today. Therefore, it gives me great pleasure that we are finally returning to meeting each other in person, exchanging and working on the most important issues for the CCI sector its future, and that of our societies. And I find it truly symbolic that this first time, at least in the context of our project, we are once again meeting at LaVallée Creative Space in Brussels, which I have mentioned in the beginning. In a way, we have come a full circle. At the same time, both us and our societies are in a very different place from where we were 2 years ago. We cannot satisfy ourselves with simply having the CCI sector bounce back, but we must maximize our exchange and flip the perspectives to ensure that it bounces forward. I wish you a successful conference and thank you very much for your attention.